Hello, everyone, and welcome to another one of the. I'm still calling them the quarantine edition episodes. I don't care if I live in Florida and Florida's still opening up. We're still all in quarantine, our mental heads here. I'm Mike. Today with me, a special guest who's not named AJ. Could you please tell me your name and the game we're here to talk about?
I am Gavin Eisenbeis. We're going to be talking about My Beautiful Paper Smile.
So, immediately I've got to ask. I don't think I've heard of you guys. What is like the studio you work for? Kind of like that top level background.
So Two Star Games is just me. It's a one-person solo studio. I've been kind of doing the game development stuff for a while now, and I went by a couple other names in the past just for some other random little projects that I worked on. But then I switched to Two Star and started working on My Beautiful Paper Smile and started working with Vicarious Publishing. So we've been kind of working together the past year or so, getting it all ready to release into early access. So that's kind of origin story in a very small nutshell.
Perfect. Okay, yeah. So you're that's so interesting because that is what I thought interesting based on everything I tell. I'm like I think you're a solo. It's because half the time I go through this, it's like one of those like it looks solo and they're like there's 5 people behind you. Like always
Yeah.
So I've asked them. So you do everything on the game then, or do you subcontract some stuff out?
There's no subcontracting. I have zero budget for that. But yeah, pretty much everything is all me. I kind of sort of outsource some sound effects, just off of online websites and stuff. And then I go in and edit them to make them fit whatever, various parts of the game. But yeah, it's pretty much all me. And then, Vicarious is handling all the marketing, all that publisher kind of stuff. So
Publisher is being the publisher. Trust me.
Yes, yeah, they're doing their job.
What that means. You pay them for something, is what you're telling me. Got it.
Yeah.
So immediately, so you were kind enough to give me a code to kind of run through the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a note here, and I'm curious if this is true. Do I feel like you were just a really big fan of the first We Happy Few trailer, and you went, I want to make a game that's black and white off of that?
I know very little about the We Happy Few game. I've never played it. I don't know if I've probably seen the trailer. I think I've only seen it browsing through Steam. But until people started comparing it to that a lot, I didn't even realize what it was about. So
That's
amazing.
It's
kind of funny. I should probably look into that a little bit more and make sure I'm not like doing anything too similar. But
legitimately, it's like an action in combat, like nothing, like none of that. It's you're similar. I feel like in the top level theme of like, because the thing in mind is like the pure intro of the game. The Sympaths you talk about kind of how like they're kind of some level of drugging you or something, and like everyone's happy. Like, and that's totally the We Happy Few thing of like they just take happy pills the entire game, and that's kind of like the instinct of like to me it felt like it's kind of like touching on a similar theme.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a small handful of games that do cover kind of the same base concept. I think we all go about it in a lot of different ways, though. But yeah, it's not like a totally original concept. I think I just wanted to put as much of an original spin on that concept as I could, though.
So let's start there then. So immediately then. What were you looking for kind of when you started the game, and then kind of how do you describe the game now to people?
So like kind of how has it evolved over the development?
Kind of. So like immediately then, because this is the dirty secret, because I make games and not everyone realizes the dirty secret is games never end up exactly how we envision them to, like almost ever.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so all right, so the very original concept for the game. It really hasn't changed that much. The story is still very consistent. I mean, there's little details in the story that change now and then. I think the biggest change is that originally it was going to be like a top-down 2D, sort of more like a game maker game, when you see those little like RPG sort of things. And that was kind of more the original route that I was going to go with it. But just while playing around with the graphics in Unreal, I just kind of settled on the 2.5D high contrast sort of look, and I really, really liked it. So I just kind of kept on going with that. But other than that, it's been pretty much the same concept. So, so where it is now is, it's a third-person psychological horror adventure game, about these kids that are raised in a facility where they have to smile all the time, and that's basically their form of perfection. And if you're not perfect, then there's not really any use for you in the world. So, your goal is, as one of the kids that's being raised in this facility, you're trying to escape because you've seen some of the kind of weird, eerie, crazy stuff that's going on. And so you decide to try and escape in the first chapter. And second chapter takes off when you, maybe you do escape, maybe you don't. So I'll give a hint that maybe you do escape. And then it kind of goes through your adventures throughout the outside world and all that stuff in the next few chapters. But I don't want to go into those too much, since those will be changing a little bit.
No,
Who knows?
That makes sense. So then obviously we talk about then. So obviously We Happy Few, I would say, it was built more in tangent at the same time than you built it. So what did you kind of base this idea kind of off of that you wanted to touch on? Was it just kind of like a fun trope in fiction you've always heard? Was there some like more thing, like you've read a story and you're like, oh, I want to make something off that?
Yeah, so it kind of all started. I mean, I knew that, okay, so I've been making games for a while, and I decided to kind of take everything to the next level, from like hobbyist little projects to like a big full-on game. And so I knew that if I was going to do that, I needed to have a really, really good, strong concept and atmosphere and art style. That was one of the big things that I wanted to focus on, was art style, because I was seeing games like Cuphead doing really well almost solely off their art style. I mean, obviously, they've got amazing gameplay and stuff, but what really sells it is the art style and just the whole everything about how it feels, the atmosphere, the sound, and all that. And so I wanted to focus on that a lot for whatever my next big thing was going to be. And so I spent a couple months, well, not maybe like a month, just kind of trying to come up with an idea for a style, just an art style or something that would be unique enough that people wouldn't be able to like point at 50 other games and say, oh, you copied it from them. And eventually I was going through some old note papers and stuff, and I found this old sketch of a creepy goat character that I'd made. And I was like, there is something about that. And so I really liked it, and I was kind of started playing around with the idea of making the art style in the same style as this sketch and kind of basing it around this character that I'd drawn. And so that's pretty much what I did. It was a picture of a little goat. He was smiling, really big. He was really creepy. And so I kind of started coming up with sort of, how do I say that? Started just developing the story around this character. So like, why is the character smiling? What kind of a world would he live in? What's his goal? Who is he? And so that character became the king and kind of the main guy in charge of the operation in the game, where you've got the facility with all the tests and everything. He's kind of in charge of all that. And then I came up with the Joyous, that are kind of, the little underling peasants, and kind of just went from there. So I kind of decided that it would make sense to make a horror game that was more focused on being creepy and just unsettling than all jump scares in your face. And so I figured that basing it off of just kind of a concept that I found sort of creepy and unsettling would be a good way to go. And so that concept that I chose was that if you're not smiling, you're not perfect, and you have no purpose. So that was kind of how that all came to be.
Interesting, and I do like the smiling thing a lot because it feels like an undertone just of society, and that's kind of like the unsettling nature of it, and that's why I think it's really cool. The this continual notion of it being in black and white, I also feel like is it's an art style choice that I understand probably as anything is designed, it wasn't always the first choice, but like it almost feels like I don't know if I could picture this game without it being black and white now.
Yeah. No, it was pretty much always planned to be black and white. Yeah. It was just another one of those kind of little touches that I used to really try and set the whole style of it apart, where somebody could look at a screenshot from the game, and then 2 months later they could look at a different screenshot from the game and be like, oh, I recognize that. I've seen that game before. So just stuff like that really made it memorable. So
Other thing that I feel like, I don't know if you ever played the game Tearaway, because to me this game feels like a dark Tearaway a lot of times when I was playing through the art style of the game.
have not heard of that. What is it? Tearaway?
Tearaway, it was Media Molecule. It was their Vita game at the time, and it literally, it's just a papercraft world kind of thing, and obviously you're a very papercrafty art style. It's just, that's very joyful and colorful, where this is, I wouldn't say joyful is the right term.
Yeah, I've just pulled it up here. That's a little different. Yeah, no, it's Tearaway went rogue.
It's one of those things, again, of like, it's just looking at it, it's like, that's inherently with fiction, of like, when you're looking at it, go, okay, obviously there is, culturally, it's pulled from other stuff, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, one of the things that I find curious is, so you're going into early access with the game.
Yes.
So this type of game, I feel like, is one of those that early access is an interesting choice. I'm kind of curious your thought process on that.
Sure, yes. So, originally, the idea was to release the first chapter, just stand alone, just release the first chapter, and then release the preceding chapters as like DLC packages. And then after talking with Vicarious and kind of discussing things, they did some research, and we kind of came to the conclusion that it would make the most sense to just release in early access. That way we can get the game out there, we can start getting feedback, and start kind of building up momentum for the final release, and really make it as big of, a thing as we can. Also, so that, we don't spend another 2 years making a game that turns out to just be terrible, because that would be rather inconvenient. But yeah, I mean, we surveyed all of our beta testers, and most of them were all on board to, they would rather, buy the game at full price and just receive updates later on. So there were a bunch of reasons, but yeah, those are some.
It's much more of a, like, I hate to say the comparisons, or tell me if I'm really off, but it's more akin to like the idea how like a Telltale or whatever released an episodic thing of like, it's less for you being able to go back and edit the first episode. It's more of like, okay, let's adjust the future episodes to make sure it's staying in fun and theme and all that. Yeah,
more like that. Yeah.
Interesting. So has that changed kind of how you've develop the game, or because it's always inherently been this more episode-based thing, it's kind of always been in the back of your mind to develop in this way?
Um, well, it's always been in the plan to release it like episodically. Um, so I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say that it's. I suppose it has affected it a bit. There's more focus on the specific chapters, and making them kind of each have their sort of a unique story, in and of themselves. But yeah, overall, it hasn't affected a whole lot other than that. It's kind of just making them each have sort of a specific story and then making them all contribute to the overall timeline of the game.
Perfect. Well, I have a list here of some more fun questions. I hope you don't mind.
Okay,
We're gonna
yeah,
go
sure.
through the world. Okay. If you had to live in this world, would you rather be an educator or an educatee? We'll start there.
Oh, well, dang. That's I haven't thought about that.
Just think
Jeez.
about it.
Okay, well, if I'm an educator, um, I probably have a lot better quality of life. But then I have to, I don't know. But then again, if I was like being mean to little goat people all day, I probably wouldn't feel that bad about it if I was one of those people. But then again, that makes me sound sadistic and terrible. So I'd much rather be one of the little educated people and just escape. That's what I do.
Okay. I got another one for you. So if we were in another world and you could remake this game and they wouldn't be goat people, what animal would they be?
Hmm. What other animal would they be? I'm tempted to just say something like a golfer, or
That's a
maybe
very interesting one. Why a
I
gopher?
don't know. Well, because all right, if I'm living in a different world, alternate dimension, right, and I'm making this game and they're not goat people, maybe it wouldn't even be a horror game. Maybe they're gophers because the goal of the game is to plant flowers and build. Maybe it's like a city building. I don't know. Maybe it's all about making beautiful flowers. My beautiful paper flower, and maybe it's super colorful.
That's amazing. And for the record, I just hope that if you make the sequel, is that like
Yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll do the 4+ version.
that would be, no, it's like episode 5. Like you walk outside and there's just a thing of like it's just a thing of the gopher people planting flowers. And you're like, wow, that's not what I expected the outside world to look like.
Yeah, we'll just build up for the next year just to have this super lighthearted just reveal at the very end. Just like, guess what? You're actually a golfer.
Wow. So then one other thing I have for you. So obviously, right now while building this, you have to be in this very dark and broody, continual mindset. Is this like a thing you want to continue working on, like in the future, and like the same kind of theme, or like do I expect your next game now to be this very happy-go-lucky, cheerful thing, just to get you out of this world as much as humanly possible?
You know, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say that I have to be in like a dark mindset all the time. I think I think it maybe helps sometimes, depending on what I'm working on. Like if I'm writing some really dark dialogue, maybe it helps if I stubbed my toe that morning or something. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I could get away from the whole horror development because I love telling these dark stories that have redeeming messages to them. I think that's really important, and I think it's something that people need more of. I mean, I think a lot of the people that are playing dark games or watching horror movies, they're watching them for a reason, and I think if you can put a positive spin on it, I think that's a good thing to do. So there's not so much of that in the first couple chapters, but it gets there. It gets there. So yeah, I think probably my next game, it'll probably be something kind of similar. I I've got a lot of ideas for not necessarily similar games, but other horror games that I'd love to make at some point. So yeah, I'll probably stick with this for at least a little while.
Interesting. So if we ever meet you in person and really when you're like wearing pure black, I'll at least understand why. It's really getting you like I need to work on the sequel.
Um, sure, yeah, yeah, something like that.
Perfect. Well, Gavin, is there anything that you feel that you think everyone needs to know about the game that we've missed talking about, either the theme or some of the general messages of the game?
Um, I think everybody needs to know that it's an awesome game, and I
Uh,
really love working on it.
well, let's say
There you
to be
go.
fair, if you didn't really love working on it at a certain point, you would have stopped. So I think a lot of
Yeah.
times we get to these points, like when the game's about to come out, everyone's like, at some point I go, I hope to God you liked working on this thing because otherwise you just wasted
Yeah,
years of your life in some capacity.
for sure. Yeah.
So let's see if I have all the info right then. The game comes out June 19th on early access. Is
Yep.
that right?
Mm-hmm.
And that includes
Yep. That'll be the first two chapters.
first two chapters, and then do you have a rough timeline that you've talked about for like the rest of the chapters coming out? Is it a couple months or?
It'll be probably chapter 3, probably by the end of the year.
Okay.
And full release sometime mid next year, maybe by next summer, maybe. We'll
Okay.
see.
And then I don't know if I have that listed. What is the price of the game when you get an early access?
So we're going to be launching at $15 with a 10% discount. So it'll be $13.50 on launch.
Perfect. So I assume it's the normal like week or whatever Steam does.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay, so yeah, so it's normally $15, $13.50 if you get the game right when it comes out, as you probably should, because let's be honest, helps
I
you.
mean, I think you should.
You think you should, and then also helps you get more people to see you if they get it sooner. So,
Yeah. Yeah. The sooner the better.
well, yeah. So the game is My Beautiful Paper Smile. It is developed by you. It is what was the name of your publisher? Because I have V Publishing here.
V Publishing. Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. And then it's mybeautifulpapersmile.com for all the info of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Perfect. Well,
Yep.
Gavin,
Yep.
thanks again for sitting down, talking to me on this Friday afternoon to talk about your nice, lovely, very inviting and warm-feeling game.
Yeah. You're welcome. Thanks for having me on. It's been real fun.
Well, enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Yeah. You too. Thanks.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to really what I'm hoping is the tail end of these quarantine episodes, because we've all been in quarantine for a while at this point, and we're all dealing with it in different ways. Anyway, I'm Mike. Today with me I have a special guest. Could you please tell me, sir, what your name is and what the game we're here to talk about?
My name's Kevin Brown. I'm the lead developer on a game, Subchase Online. It's basically it's a light sim for World War II technology ships like destroyers, subs, aircraft carriers.
So, immediately I've got to ask, is it just you guys really like history? Do you really like simulations? Like why did you decide to be like, we're gonna do this very, I would argue, very niche game immediately?
Niche is the right word. I've actually started out, I found an old handheld electronics game called Subchase when I was rummaging through some stuff. And I really loved that game in the past, like in my childhood. And I said, once if I brought this up to date with video and multiplayer. So that's really started the whole thing. I'm really not a history buff, but I'm trying to make the game in a diesel punk universe with technologies that you would find in World War II.
Immediately when I saw the game, it was very much like oh, this just feels like I'm very interested because it's this very nuanced niche thing. But immediately I'm like, oh, this is very interesting because it's a lot of times when you see these kind of games, you're like, yeah, this is the game we made for like me and my friends, and we decided to sell it because a lot of times that's what they feel like, just because logistically it's like you can only get so far in it. So let's start from the top actually. Then are you gonna help me? Is it Thurston Studios?
Thurston Studios, yeah, like Thurston Hal.
Perfect. So would you mind running around? Let's start with the top level, like who you guys are, where you come from.
Started out doing some web app development. That didn't work out, so I tried doing a video game on my own. Actually, it was not intentional, just downtime during like a layoff of a professional software development career. I said, "Hey, I'm gonna try to make a game." So my first game was a fishing game called Fish or Die. That's how I originally started into video games. That was not a commercial success. So that was kind of a downer. But then I found, like I said, the game, and that prompted me to continue on making. Found that Sub Chase.
Okay, so yeah, so now we're on Sub Chase Online, which as from when we're talking, it's set to come out about a month from now, so it has a general idea of looking at the game at this current state. So immediately, so you were kind enough to give me some access to the game, some codes I could go through and play the game. Immediately I've got to ask, because a game like this has to be a certain level of complexity. So what has been like your challenges and kind of like your logic of like onboarding new players kind of as they go through this experience?
A lot of complaints when I demo this that it needs an online tutorial. When I explain it to them, they say, "Oh, now I see." But we're so involved. It's like common sense to us. So the problem, we tried to make it a light sim, that it's not historically accurate, that's so in the weeds, but it has a level of complexity that it's not going to be a mobile game. It's just easy to get into and easy to get out of it.
So looking at it as you were developing it, now that you've been a while actually in the weeds thinking about it, do you feel that like immediately you're really glad you didn't take the super historical accurate approach and you kind of lightened it up a bit, or do you feel that like as you work on the game some more, even post, you might try to push it a little more historically accurate?
As an indie developer, I think you have to have a niche. I think there's already historical sub games out there that I don't think I could compete in that genre. It's just they've done it well, and trying to come up with something different, give a player that is crew based. Like there's World of Warships where one person controls a ship in like a real time strategy game where they only control one ship. I'm trying to get in a different approach where it's crew based, where everybody has to communicate together to get a goal done.
So yeah, so one of the things I find interesting is so the way you portray it when you're in the ship is you have this sidebar that kind of shows all of the different positions possible, kind of different menus within your ship.
Stations.
Stations. Again, you think for someone who like his show, I understand the word stations, and I work with military, so they're really going to be disappointed here. But like, so you're doing stations there, and so in the immediacy, you kind of give all players kind of access, kind of to jump around. I'm curious,
Yes.
during your testing, has that been one of those things that like you've stuck with and people have gotten to like used to? Because immediately, like when I went in there, it's like, oh, I have to be like, okay, I have like 10 stations, whatever it was. Like, what do all these do very quickly? Like, how do I control all of them? Like, that's the part where immediately was like, oh, this is. It took me a second just to realize kind of what each of them were and just remembering them.
That is the typical complaint about onboarding, where people say, once I see you play it, oh, it makes sense. But people they want a tutorial for each station. But as an independent person, that is a lot of work. We're trying to give you training servers to go on, and you've just got to discover on your own right now.
So that also to me is a very interesting thing how you've described them as training, even like you described, like you have multiplayer training servers, and so in your head then, because obviously the name online is in the game, right? And how like how are you separating this with kind of the players kind of learning versus like going in and playing? Is it just kind of all your servers right now are basically the idea of training, and you're going to kind of offload them to not training over time, or?
That is a very good question. Uh, if I was an experienced player, well, I've read other logs on Steam about what people complained about other crew-based games, and one was that they would get a newbie on their ship and they wouldn't know anything how to operate it. They didn't take the time to learn ahead of time. And another one is language-based on a crew. Like if you're an English based crew and Chinese players show up, they can't communicate. So those are two things I'm trying to solve. The first thing I recently added was you have to sync your first ship before you can go into match play. So you have to go into a training server, sync a ship, then you get an achievement. That achievement will be looked for before you go into a match with somebody else.
So for record, that on face value is a very great thing I think you did there, because yeah, that is 100% a problem in a lot of games. They're just like, yeah, just go and have fun, and everyone's like, who's this guy? Why is he killing us?
Yes, I found out you can sink your own ship by giving people the destroyer, and just letting them. The first thing they do is fired. Right now, the guns are lined up in line across the ship. So if they just start firing, they sink their own ship. I found that out, that there is nothing, no controls in the game to prevent you from aiming your gun at your own ship. Found that out.
So I immediately have to ask: are you keeping that? Is that gonna be like is that gonna be like one of those like Dark Souls-y things of like someone just be like, screw it, we're going down?
Absolutely. It's a practical joke for me. They may be pissed off, but it's a great practical joke.
God, I feel like you're gonna have like the group of like friends who like have one of them who just goes 3, 2, and they're like, what's he counting down for? Push. Okay, we're done.
Good point.
So one of the things I think is very interesting about, because you have obviously it's a ship-based game, you have different options of ships. How have you kind of gone through and been like, this is like decided which ships you are building for this game?
Another good question. It was originally a sub single player. That's how I originally started it. But that turned out to be so complicated, and I have a working sub right now, but it was so complicated to turn into multiplayer. I started back on the original sub chase, but you were the destroyer trying to find the sub. So it's been which can I crank out the quickest, basically. Which ship I can, like the aircraft carrier. Oh, that's a mighty goal, but to have 20 people on an aircraft carrier with planes, ooh, that's a while down the.
Very interesting. I guess so again, it makes sense of being like a very like independent developer of like, okay, what resources do I have? I've always found it interesting, especially when you're like, because even like from like, and I'm gonna use simple in the term understanding. It's not fully simple, but like that broader, simpler things is always interesting. Like, 'cause there's still some level of variety in what would be simple compared to like obviously like a plane with extra level of stuff or with bombs. Like that now becomes more complicated because you even have an extra access to worry about. You have a lot of logistical things to worry about there too.
Exactly.
So, while playing it too, one of the other things I think I kind of felt while going through some of the things is just logistically when it comes to controlling it and maneuvering the ships. Is that one of the things that like when you were going through it kind of feels like how you thought it would end up, or is that one of those that like you feel like there's still rooms to improve how you feeling kind of your ship controls?
People are initially stuck at the idea of a lag, like the ship not moving immediately like a first player shooter or something. that it is working in a physics engine. So there's drag that when you give the rudder command, it doesn't initially snap around where you want it to be. So it has been a learning curve for people for a slow response. But it is historically using speeds and turning radiuses that I found on Wikipedia.
So there is some level of math
Yes.
or physics to
Yes.
that is
Yes.
that is very
Yes.
interesting for how you're saying you've tried to do this lighter simulation of. So is there anything else
Light.
kind of that like you feel that people might not realize that or is using like actual physics or math behind it?
Lots of pain in the asses. How do you shoot a projectile to hit something that is moving, and you don't? So I had to come up with the calculations to. It's a fourth order polynomial to figure out how to land a projectile on another moving ship. So the fire control system on your gun control station is a pain in the ass to come up with, and it works.
Okay, that when you explain that to me, and again, my background is like computer science and gaming on that too, and like even hearing that, I go, yeah, no, that is. We'll go with a lot of work is what we're gonna sound like. That sounds like immediately.
Yeah.
That you're like, yeah, that was a lot of math. That is all of the math we are gonna deal with this ever again.
And this in the sub, you have another computer that helps you calculate where to fire the torpedo. So that was another. That is another computer within a computer that I had to come up with to calculate physics.
Okay.
So the background is in World War II, set a gyro on your torpedo. So as it left, it would get out of your reach, and then it would bank off to your gyro setting that you'd set. So there's a computer within the computer to calculate what gyro angle to set to hit that moving target.
So what's interesting to me, so as we talked about in the beginning of this game comes out about a month from now from when we're talking. What's interesting is, so you're going into a full Steam release at that point. I'm curious kind of, because this feels like to me one of those games that like would be the stereotypical like early access game that makes a lot of sense on it. Why did you decide to go not down that route and more down the more like full launch route?
Learn my lesson on Fish or Die. Even though you say it's early access, people will ping the hell out of you for having missing features or broken features. I don't think early access is really a thing anymore. I think my experience is I have to deliver without bugs. Or I get pinged like hell in early access. So I've just pushed this thing out, trying to get a bug-free release. Early access. It's been painful.
Just because, again, logistically, and maybe from the back end it is a little bit different now, but it feels like these types of games are like a lot of early access's bread and butter of like the thing that you could very easily polish and add features to, but the base loop is kind of there, and that's why I find that very interesting that you say that.
It's going to be close to a finished product, really, except for like programmer art, getting feedback from players. But it'll be playable.
Don't badmouth programmer art. It's how all of us survive. We're always like, remember, this box is a great, beautiful house. I don't care if it looks like the other box. This one's a house.
Because that's why I went with two. I've seen other people trying to simulate three-dimensional stations. I said, I cannot. That's like out of my scope. It's going to be like a board game where you have two-dimensional boards in front of you. Because basically, you can think of it as a board game. You have all these boards in front of you that are going to be two-dimensionals, and you click on it and stuff like that.
So yeah, that's an interesting comparison that I actually didn't think about. So you're thinking of it like in its front load, it's a 3D game, but kind of like as you go through the menus, it acts more like a board game that way. So
right.
and maybe this is hindsight talking, or this would be kind of like as we're talking too. Is there a world in the future maybe where you would make more of a digital board game while going down more of the subject matter, or do you feel like the 3D-ness of it kind of really makes the product?
Good question. I'm going to put on my business man hat. I don't think there would be, if you want to make money, I don't see making a lot of money in board games. That's out of our genre. So I think we'd do a very terrible job doing that. Don't see a lot of sales with that. But I have played a game called Captain Sonar, which I've never played a game like that before. It's a real-time strategy board game where each of you move at your own pace. You don't wait for the other guy to finish his turn. So this is kind of like that.
This is very interesting. I don't think I've heard of this game, and like I kind of pay attention to board games, and I don't think I've heard of that. That's a very interesting way to kind of like run a board game, and it makes me I could see that idea of that comparison in this game where you could have like a string of people each kind of doing their own thing, but like they are dependent on the other people, but they're not fully dependent. So,
exactly.
So you could like this is one of those also like because they're not fully dependent. That's where people mess up really quickly because they pull something too soon or mess something up.
Exactly. And I actually saw, I think his name was Total Biscuit. I saw one of his reviews, and he loved Captain Sonar. He says, "Why didn't somebody make this a video game?" And I was going to say, "Hey, we're doing that," and then he died. That's like, rest in peace.
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting because again, I feel that when it comes to strategy games, and we define as that genre, they tend to be very board game heavy, but that tends because they care about the subject matter. It's a lot easier for me to create a system that is subject matter dependent because a board game's fun is more abstract and inherently what we expect from video games fun, and that becomes this very tough thing. And that's why I go back to how you're this very interesting line of stimulating a light like simulation with a light history game, but kind of finding that line that is more video game-y.
Exactly. I'm trying to get that line where maybe a historical person is going to like it, but it won't piss him off because it's too simple. And maybe a mobile game user won't find it too complicated to say, "Oh, I'm afraid of this GUI." What's going on? Yes, we're trying to find a balance.
Perfect. Well. As we get to the tail end of this, I'm curious. So the game comes out in months. So I assume right now this is your like rush, make everything work time period. What is your down the road plans for this game? Are you planning a lot of DLC ships? Are you planning new features coming down the road post launch? What are you thinking?
What we are working on now is an escort mode where you control a Liberty ship and go to a final destination where the other side tries to sink you. And yes, you're right. Instead of having the entire software done and not having a large price, you'll have downloadable content that's each ship. You could buy one ship, but still play with everybody. You don't have to own all the ships. So each ship will be a cheaper piece of software, so you can mix and match which ships you want to buy. But you can still play with everybody, even if you only own one ship.
Friendly way of doing that, obviously, of the like, no, you might not be able to play every ship, but like, you get to at least experience the game with all of them, and you're not blocking user base out of different maps and environments.
Right, so the sub will be with the destroyers in the same game mode.
Perfect. Well, I want to say thanks again, Kevin, for sitting down and talking to me about Subchase Online. Do you mind telling us all where we can find this fun historical light simulation game coming out soon?
It is on Steam under early access as Subchase Online. You can at least look at the page. It is on itch.io too, but I'm usually out of date. It's free on itch.io for getting feedback, but it's usually we haven't been super attentive on releasing that the most current version.
Perfect. And then the website is subchaseonline.com, I believe.
Yes, yes.
Perfect. Well, again, Kevin, thanks for sitting down and talking about Subchase Online, and I'm excited to see how the game happens in about a month.
And thank you for having us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special segment of the SWW show. I have got with Danielle from Little Titan Studios,
Hi.
makers of TrickShot, a VR simulator for every time you want to yell yeet or Kobe. Which, even though I'm not one to yell yeet, I will definitely yell Kobe, which I'm sure my neighbors heard a ton of while I was playing.
Hi, thanks for having me. I like the intro, thank you.
I mean, I like to be honest in the intros, and if there's a VR game where I'm throwing stuff at targets, my neighbors hear me yell Kobe every time that I'm...
Yeah, I mean, me too, if I could ever actually land anything in a bin or anything like that. So I awkwardly yell Kobe just before I get it in, and then I have to like look away in shame when it didn't actually go in, and yet I yelled it anyway. So yeah, my neighbors probably think I'm a psycho too, because you can imagine testing this game, how frustrating it was. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it though.
You just hear somebody yell, Kobe, damn it!
Damn it! Again! Oh, shame.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna get the videos from neighbors from around the world of people playing this, and just you randomly hear Kobe, yeet, Kobe, damn.
100%. If I could go viral for anything in my life, it was my misplaced Kobe's.
I mean, hey, somebody's got to do it, right?
Yep, someone does.
There's a role that everyone can fill, and it sounds like for you and I, our uncoordinated Kobe's are how we're going
True,
to...
true. And also the fact that I'm busy translating my game into languages I don't understand, and I am so stressed that it's not going to say what I think it's saying. So, yeah, that's great. I'm probably going to go viral as that game that, completely mistranslated everything.
Well, it can't be any worse than all our baseball on this, so... It's grammatical errors.
Yes,
I mean,
that's true. Hey. Although I worry about that as well. I mean, I'm educated, but it's not like I got a degree in spelling or anything. So everything has to get checked by my husband to make sure that it actually says what I think it's saying. Because when I was in grade 4, apparently I didn't do so good.
You sound like Mike. He's educated, but have that man spell anything and struggle.
Yeah, I think it's the creative in me. I just feel like words shouldn't be limited to a singular type of spelling. If you read out the letters and it says what I think you should be saying when you read those letters, then just go with it. It doesn't really matter. I'm just kidding. But yeah, development's been fun because I've literally tried to use as little words in the game as possible just to avoid those mess ups.
I mean, that's one way to do it. Hey, we can translate this game into every language because it's one word.
Yeah, it's like play and exit. Although most languages don't have a word for trickshot. I got it translated specially by a company and it just came back as trickshot, so that was money wasted.
Yeah, I think a lot of languages tend to do the thing that I believe it's Japanese, and I know Spanish does it too, where they just use the English language.
Mm-hmm. The Japanese uses their writing, but if you were to pronounce their letters, it would say trickshot. Or it would make Japanese people say trickshot. So it's not really a translation of the word, it's more just helping them pronounce it.
I mean, sometimes it's, like you said, the words look the way they should, but languages don't have a... Well, here you go. You're going to, force all these languages to now have a word trickshot.
Well, there you go. Although there is 4 other games on Steam, or I think 3 others on Steam with the same name, which I didn't know when I made it a year ago. But hopefully people learn of mine and understand the difference. 'Cause at least mine's VR, and it is actually trick shotting. I think. I don't know. I'm still trying to get it there.
I mean, it's trick shotting in the way of being difficult shots. You're not setting up the Dude Perfect basketball videos of them launching a basketball and it bouncing off 15 different trampolines for it to go in.
That is the end goal.
Trick shots.
That's definitely a mode that will be coming later in the puzzle section for the later levels. It's just, it's in development. So, but that was actually how the whole game started, is because of videos like that, where I was like, that's really cool. I'd love to do that, but I don't want to have to fetch the ball every single time. I also don't have the space to do it, So I was like, I'll just build it virtually. And then that's kind of where I got to where I am right now.
It's the, I liked the sports games in VR, especially ones that have throwing in them, because you can be as lazy as you want to be, because 90% of them have a recall for the ball, so you're just like, oh, it's basketball, and I missed. Well, okay, recall. Shoot it again. Hey, I made it.
Yeah, no, exactly. It actually helps in the long run. It helps you get better and helps you be more confident, and it doesn't translate to real-world skill at all. Believe me, I've tried.
Now we just need, now we need the controllers to have like weights in them or something, and then you can learn how to play basketball in VR.
Exactly. And also we need Steam and Oculus's SDKs to not force you to use their throwing mechanisms. That would be great. If I could just code my own, like every single time I code my own, and then when it comes to submission, they're like, oh, you have to use ours. And I'm just like, you're kidding. Yours doesn't feel realistic. Like, please. Yeah, anyway, that's just my own qualm. Like, once they get over themselves and let us developers actually develop file games, then I think things will go a lot further. But it's still in the new stages, VR. It's still getting there, and people are still learning. So
it's weird. It's weird to say it's in the early stages, because, I mean, it's been 5 years since... Has it been 5 years since the Vive came out?
I think it has been, but I mean, I'm more being like commercially, if you think about it, the amount of development skill in the market, you can't ask for someone who has 10 years experience. You can only ask for 5 years experience max. And then they would have had to start developing before like most of this technology even became available to every country. Like, okay, I'm sure maybe the US is a bit different, because South Africa, like I said, is extremely behind. Like, our VR headsets actually only really became available last year. I picked my own one up in America because it just wasn't available here in South Africa. So for us, it's like not even a technology yet that people think about or want to be interested in. So for us, it's extremely new, and for the development sector, from what I've seen and from what I've discussed with people in my field who also develop for VR, we're all very new to it in the sense that like the technology is constantly changing, which is probably the worst thing to be developing for, is like a new technology, because they're constantly making new developments and new items that you have to use. And like a lot of it is like, you have to use this because it makes the experience better for the user. So you've just gotten used to the last thing that you had to put in, and now they're like, oh, actually, we've just decided to change it. So it's constantly new, and you're constantly having to update yourself. But I don't think there's anyone who can actually say they're a master VR developer yet. Like surely they'll come out. Or maybe that one guy I know, Brandon, he's probably a master. But other than him.
There's one master. There can only be one.
It can only be one, and it's probably Brandon. I'm just kidding, just because he taught me a lot of what I know, so immediately he just goes to the top of the ladder for me.
I mean, everybody's going to have their own idea of who's on the top based on...
That's true. And I mean, no university is even teaching it yet, really. It's mostly just at additional courses and stuff like that. Like, it's not a degree yet, which I think it actually should be. VR development's like completely different, and it should be its own degree to an extent.
Well, especially when you take into account, like, I hate that term, but XR, extended reality, like
Mhm.
that is literally the future. I mean, that everybody wants to talk about like um, AR and VR headsets separately, but I mean, ideally, AR gets good enough that you can create VR in it, and that's what everybody wants. Everybody wants those Google glasses that lasted for like a year. That had the little
Yeah.
thing in them that were like, "Hey, this, and this." Everybody wants
Mhm.
that, but over the full glass. So
Yes.
yeah, I mean, this stuff is going to be the future of how not only we play games but how we interact. I could totally see a future where it's no longer sitting in a chair for a Zoom call. It's basically VR chat for Zoom calls where everybody has a headset or glasses and you put them on and then there.
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching a company develop holograms, not as like sci-fi movies show them, but for AR. And like soon, you're pretty much just going to be standing in someone else's living room, chatting to them through your hologram. And with augmented reality, it'll look like you're there, and they'll see you like you're there. And it's crazy to think where this field has come in just 5 years. Okay, it's not 5 years. I mean, if we actually think about it, virtual reality has been used by the military since I think '85 was when the first headset was actually used to train military officers. I might be wrong on that date, but if I remember correctly, it was '85.
We'll go
Um,
with it because I don't know the answer.
like it's very old, but also it took time for it to actually even for people to even think of it as something that could be commercially viable. And now it's gotten to a point where there's even an accounting app on the Oculus Rift that helps you do your accounting in virtual reality. And the fact that they can put that in there tells me they can do anything with virtual reality.
Is it like actual accounting or is it the accounting VR game that's Justin Roiland? Because he nailed the name for that. The guy behind Rick and Morty.
Oh no, it's actual
Okay.
like you can do your accounting
Okay.
thing and it virtually visualizes your books for you, which I mean maybe it's necessary and I mean anything to make accounting more fun. But yeah. But the game, yeah, I also saw that. It's pretty cool. But no, I'm talking like actual accounting used by people in the world.
I have to imagine there's a large number of people that were as confused as I was when you see accounting VR and think, oh, it's probably like uh, TurboTax or Quicken
Mm.
Loans with their accounting stuff, and then you fire it up, and it's no, it's this animated cartoon thing game.
Yeah, it's not. I've seen that as well. Yeah, also, it's interesting that they even made a game like that, but it's a cool idea,
Yeah,
and it's very well done. I must say, I really do enjoy the animation of that game.
yeah, that style translates very well to the game.
It does. It
It's fun to go
definitely.
through. But so TrickShot, back to that, because I'm sure we
Mhm.
could go on tangents all day. Um,
Definitely.
it is currently on Steam.
Yes.
As I'm looking at it, the promotion will be over by the time the episode goes up, but it is $9.60. It is normally $12, so
Mhm.
it's not the end of the world. Granted, you need a headset, which that might be the end of.
Yes. Let's be honest, headsets are expensive.
Yeah,
And then most of the games on them are also kind of expensive.
yeah. I
Um,
I always understood why, but it's a tough sell when somebody's like, "Oh, you need to buy this $1,000 headset plus, the games are still $60 or more."
yes.
Like, man, that's a tough sell for people that aren't into games anyway. And then on top of that, you're like, oh, and by the way, you need basically $1,000 computer too.
Yes, and I think that's where the Quest kind of makes it more available for the community. But at the same time, the game price on the Quest is so exorbitant and so overboard that it also kind of deters people from going that route, because at the end of the day, you're going to be spending so much more on the exact same game. Okay, I mean, you're wireless, so that also helps and does make it more fun, I won't lie. Someone who has all of the headsets, the Quest is definitely up there in my favorites, but it does make it a bit difficult to market your game. And also for family and friends, in a lot of game making, you can get your family and your friends group to download your game and give it a try. But now it's kind of like, okay, it's only the people who have headsets, and none of you guys have headsets, so sorry, you can't try my game. You'll have to come over to my house. So, yeah. I mean, it doesn't help. It doesn't help the community, but I think it'll get better. I think over time, it'll actually become one of those things that almost every household has, like a computer having, or like a PlayStation, actually. Everyone will have a Quest at some point.
Yeah, I mean, with the announcement video of Unreal 5, it looks like horsepower behind the next-gen consoles is going to be pretty substantial. So, yeah, console VR could fully become a thing, which is a lot easier to get into, for sure.
Definitely, it's a lot cheaper to buy the PSVR if you already have a PlayStation, of course. But it's also very limited. It's not really a virtual reality experience. It's more three directions of freedom, and like that's hard to code for, actually, because you want your user to be able to prance around and do whatever they want. But when they got a controller and then the head can move around, you kind of wonder, what's the point? Like, what am I actually allowing them to do? Except for racing games. I feel like racing games could maybe be a good area for that.
Definitely adds to the immersion.
It does. But the current games on the PSVR are very underwhelming, in my opinion. Not because of anything, but I just don't think anyone's really developing for it at the moment. Which means you'll buy an expensive headset and then not really have anything to play, which kind of sucks. And TrickShot will be going to PSVR eventually if I can figure out how the mechanic would work. Yeah, all exciting stuff for the future.
Yeah, future has a lot in store. So, Danielle, it's been great to talk to you. So, again, you can check out TrickShot. It is on Steam. You remember it requires a VR set and potentially some soundproofing for your Kobe's and your Dams and your Yeats as you huck stuff at targets.
Definitely. Can I get the soundproofing first?
This podcast was a production of the SWW Show. To learn more, go to theswwshow.com. Remember, you can follow the show on Twitter at the SWW Show. You can follow me at Mikey_Maroney. You can follow AJ at LowSeaBoy. Remember, new episodes premiere on Friday, 9 a.m. Central Time on anchor.fm/SWW and podcast services around the globe.